across the rolling hills of southern Indiana are the remnants of a deep and ancient past. For one man, these remnants became an obsession, a lifelong pursuit that would uncover thousands of otherworldly, prehistoric artifacts. Ones that would ignite controversy and ultimately land him behind bars. This is the story of Arthur J. Gerber, amateur archaeologist, passionate collector, and one of the most debated figures in Midwestern archaeology. To some, he was a tomb robber, but to others, someone that exposed what others tried to keep quiet. Arthur Joseph Gerber Jr., known simply as Art, or Art Joe to people that knew him, was born at Evansville, Indiana in 1938. It was an area well known for prehistoric people that lived there thousands of years before. When it comes to archaeology, you might say he was born into it. He grew up at Cannelton, Indiana, where he attended school. Undoubtedly, he heard the stories of ancient burial mounds, arrowheads, spearheads, and other ancient artifacts, as they were found so frequently along the Ohio River in Perry County. He later attended Chaminade College Preparatory School in St. Louis, Missouri. In fact, where St. Louis is today was once a large ancient city filled with many earthworks. However, most of them were destroyed in the interest of building new businesses. And just across the Mississippi River in Illinois, the ancient city of Cahokia, and the largest ancient earthwork in North America. All of this set the stage for a young Art Gerber developing an interest in prehistoric cultures and their unsolved mysteries. He achieved a bachelor's degree at Purdue University. Art Gerber was not only educated, but accumulated a list of honors and accomplishments. He was a medic in the Air Force. He was a member of the Genuine Indian Relic and the Central States Archaeological Societies. He developed the annual Owensboro Indian Artifact Show, which continued for 33 years. In addition, he became a Kentucky colonel, a Georgia lieutenant colonel, and Sagamore of the Wabash, an Indiana honor given to those that have significantly added to Indiana's historical legacy. In other words, he wasn't just a guy with a shovel, as some would later try to label him. After the Air Force, with an interest in photography, came back home and built a business developing film. It later turned into a portrait studio, but that was just a day job to support his real passion. He explored ancient sites and caves, looking for hints of the past, and with his expertise in photography, he became a profound documentarian of archaeology, culminating in some of the most intriguing reading about prehistoric cultures. Without a university review board, he simply showed what he found. In the end, it would be his downfall, and served as a warning to other amateur archaeologists. If you're not part of the club, you're not allowed to play. And the penalty? You lose everything. one of Art Gerber's most famous sites was the so-called Crib Mound in Perry County, Indiana. At first glance, it didn't seem remarkable, just a section of riverbank along the Ohio River. But just below the surface lay a trove of prehistoric artifacts. He spent years collecting from the Crib Mound, and what he recorded finding was extraordinary. Artifacts were strewn all over the riverbank, as if an ancient site had exploded. But he wanted to be proactive. One more major flood, and everything along the riverbank could be lost. He fitted a boat with a water cannon to expose even more artifacts. In the process, he was cursed at and even shot at by a local landowner. But the things he was finding was way too important to be lost. Finely crafted banner stones. These are unusual items made of stone, somehow drilled about 3/4 inches in diameter and often several inches deep. Archaeologists don't know what they were used for, and mysteriously, they never show them in museums, but Art Gerber did. He also found items made of copper, including an exquisite blade. This wasn't a typical Native American artifact, but who made it? He also uncovered copper armor and copper jewelry. Copper does not exist in Indiana. It had to come from somewhere far away. There were a huge number of stone catch blades, as well as freshwater shells that were often used as currency, and countless stone tools. When all was said and done, he'd collected over 10,000 artifacts. Yet for university-backed archaeologists, there was an immediate skepticism. Without precise excavation records, much of the scientific value of these artifacts was lost. But the truth is, it was a race against time. The Ohio River, raised and leveled by a series of locks and dams, eroded the ancient riverbank, and thus a prehistoric site, one that would have been left alone for centuries. Without Art Gerber, these artifacts would have simply sank to the bottom of the murky Ohio River, lost forever. Art had made a name for himself, but he'd also put a target on his back. The storm was about to roll in. In the late 1980s, Art Gerber's collecting led him into a storm of controversy. At Mount Vernon, Indiana, workers building a new road dug into an ancient earthwork now known as the GE Mound. In this over 1,000-year-old Hopewell Mound were items made of silver, gold, copper, and pearl, some of the most exquisite prehistoric items ever found in North America. It was one of the largest Hopewell mounds ever discovered. The workers simply took the items home, violating federal law. Art Gerber was contacted as a known collector. He paid $6,000 for artifacts and offered to pay for whatever else was found. In total, over 5,000 items were recovered. This included items made of wood and leather that had not deteriorated, as well as the bones of ancient people. Authorities stepped in after a tip, arresting both the workers and Art Gerber. The Miami tribe of Oklahoma tried to legally obtain the items, even though they couldn't prove DNA lineage. Eventually, the artifacts were reburied, but Art was not off the hook. The case quickly drew national attention. Federal prosecutors charged him under the Archaeological Resources Protection Act of 1979. He argued that the items were found on private property, not federal or Indian land. The Court of Appeals decided that it didn't matter, and this sent a very strong message to amateur archaeologists. It brought up many questions. Why should universities get oversight of ancient artifacts and exclude everyone else? How can the government make claims on private property? Art Gerber pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor count and was sentenced to a year in federal prison. But he lost more than 12 months of freedom. He was fined $5,000 and ordered to forfeit $4,750 from the sale of artifacts. He lost the rare artifacts themselves, but also proof of what he found, as pictures of the artifacts were also confiscated. Was taking the pictures simply a punitive action, or was it to hide something we weren't supposed to see? The Art Gerber case split the community. Professional archaeologists argued that his methods, digging into mounds, removing artifacts without systematic documentation, robbed future generations of knowledge. But to many, if not most collectors, Gerber was a martyr. They saw him as a man punished not for greed, but for passion. Someone who dedicated his life to uncovering a past, one that might otherwise remain buried forever. The debate touches on a larger question. Who truly owns the past? Is it anyone who discovers artifacts? The Native Americans that claim lineage to the mound builders, but can't prove it through DNA analysis? Or is it only someone with an archaeology degree and government funding? Who has the authority and where does it come from? Ancient artifacts have become a controlled substance and possession has a penalty. Outsiders without government authority who find something more than a simple arrowhead risk losing everything. Art Gerber was not the only Indiana collector of antiquities prosecuted for having a collection. Don Miller was an amateur archaeologist who amassed an extensive collection of artifacts over several decades. He had traveled the world doing missionary work and picked up artifacts as a hobby. At no point was he accused of any crime, and people readily helped him. His main passion was Native American items. He stored them at his museum at Waldron, Indiana, a collection of over 75,000 artifacts. For decades, there was not a single complaint. And then when he was 89 years old, someone told the FBI about his collection. In 2014, the FBI conducted a 6-day raid of Miller's property, resulting in the seizure of over 7,000 artifacts. Following the seizure, the FBI worked to identify the rightful owners of the artifacts and repatriate them to the country of their origin. But again, whom is the owner of an artifact thousands of years old? The repatriation didn't recover a single stolen item, nor anything that someone had reported missing. It simply punished a man for his life's work, a manufactured, victimless crime. While Miller was not charged with any crime, the seizure highlighted concerns regarding the legality of private collections of cultural artifacts. To prehistoric enthusiasts and collectors, it was nothing but a senseless power grab. Don Miller died the following year at 90 years old. Cases like those of Art Gerber and Don Miller have created a silence in southern Indiana. People no longer talk about things they found in the woods. a strange artifact left in a forgotten cave, or skeletons and prehistoric artifacts discovered while plowing a field. People simply keep them and don't talk about it. They no longer tell the universities, state museums, and Smithsonian, and I can't say that I blame them. After Art died, his collection went underground. It's uncertain where it is today. It's a shame for history that he couldn't have had a museum. On his tombstone is an inscription that casual passerbys wouldn't get. Our lives are in ruins. His certainly was.